Welcome to the complete tales from the edge of the woodland. I'm not going to ask you to remember a lot of characters. I'm going to ask you instead to live in the moment, to enter the woodland with me, to find some of the wilderness there, and let the wizard's magic touch you. The adopted dragon children were taught by none other than Gabrielle, who really found her retirement years to be so much more filled with excitement and adventure than she'd ever dreamt a messenger dragon could have, and thus quite satisfying. And by ambergris, her great Ursine wizard friend. Transitions are a natural part of the lives of all creatures. So it came to pass that the dragonettes, Michael, Thelma, and Reggie, and little Thistly, though developmentally she would always remain small and shy, began to grow toward adulthood. The first sign of it was their increase in height and weight. By this time, they'd reached a size equivalent to that of a medium horse. Then Michael, next Thelma, began to complain of headache, and when Moti touched their brow knobs, surely they felt feverish. "Look, husband," she murmured to Myrddwin, who peeked in over her shoulder one night. Sure enough, the little basswood leaf-shaped organs hung between Michael's shoulder blades had tripled in size, the heavy canvas-like thin skin thickening, growing toward the day when its sails would be strong enough to carry a heavenly body between them. In time, Einar and Myrddwin worked, and sometimes their friend and neighbor Cal helped, to design and build a large dormitory for the dragonettes to sleep and play when they outgrew the confines of their parents' cottage. Michael was ever the mischief maker. He had no ill will in his generous, warm heart. He just was possessed of a facile, creative mind. And so, as he grew physically larger, as he could not escape the pain of his growing wings, he began to experiment with his other changing, unique, draconian sense, fire-making. Sadly, Michael began to invent fire pranks. Outwardly swearing that he truly meant only to help his mother, he blew a blast of flame into the wood stove's small pot belly that kept the main living area warm, and accidentally caught both curtains and couch on fire. Not one to tattle, Sister Thelma usually kept herself to herself, even if she knew about whatever project Michael entertained in his head. And she learned to stay away from Moti at such times, because Moti, like many mothers, seemed to have an amazing ability to read minds. Nope, Thelma just found it easier to go off by herself. After consultation amongst the adults, it was decided best that Gabrielle were to fly back to the mountain from whence she first came to search out one Bartolome, a very elderly, crotchety dragon who in his youth had been a warrior of the highest order. He would teach them how to fly and wield fire. Less than a week later, one morning found Moti pinning her freshly washed laundry to the line tied between two young beech trees. Her cat Katydid had shinnied up one of the beeches and teetered atop it, batting her paw. Rumble of distant thunder came to Moti's sensitive ears as she bent to grasp one last pair of Myrddwin's trousers to clip to the drying line. Oh dear, she thought to herself, if it rains, my laundry day will be ruined. No storm in sight, but the noise grew louder, one tone deep and a slightly higher countertone. "Oh," she said, "it's Gabby. I bet she has brought Bartolome." She started to run toward the barn, calling, "Myrddwin, listen, I think Gabrielle is coming." Myrddwin poked his head out of the workshop where he had been working. "Really," grumped Katydid to herself as she flattened her body beneath the shed. "They sound louder than Mercy at a gallop." The dragonettes had tumbled with great noise out of the dormitory, making their own unique thunder. Sure enough, banking widely to the left in a circular direction, pivoting off one wingtip, Gabrielle flew counterpoint to the other dragon, landing just beneath her. His old wings were gray and silvery with age. Scars from hundreds of battles over the course of his active duty decorated his face and body like exotic tattoos. Out of respect for her elder, Gabrielle hovered just beyond the barn roof and indicated to Bartolome that he should land on the platform that Myrtwin had constructed there by cocking her head toward the building as she held his eye. During their flight, she had described the barn and the special sign in black and yellow that said, "Caution, dragon crossing." Bartolome wore an eye patch worked in fabulous embroidery on silver leather over his left eye. Though blind on that side, he compensated well for the loss of stereoscopic vision. He was shrunken in size somewhat due to his great age, but though wrinkled, he continued stocky and sturdy in appearance. His crest was white as mountain snow, his eye the faded blue of a high summer noonday sky when the heat is at its most intense and all seek shade. His talons were pewter-colored. He was missing half a digit on the left front. Already lined up on the lawn like soldiers, Michael, Reggie, and Thelma stood gawking. Michael was instantly smitten. Gabby had landed on the lawn as well. She held out one taloned paw so that the elder dragon might grasp it as he made his way from the barn roof. Once upon the ground, he cocked his head. "Don't bounce quite so high as I did when I was a young dragonette. Bit of the rheumatiz in these old joints. Cold weather's a bear, and I mean no offense to Ambergris, our great wizardly guardian. Gabby, might you introduce me to all these folks, and then perhaps we could set a spell in the sun and have a sip of something. I favor lightning juice myself." His chest rumbled with laughter. "Lightning juice!" exclaimed Moti. "It's late morning. We'll have no such drink as lightning juice at this time of day, good sir." "See?" Gabrielle elbowed Bartolome. "Didn't I tell you she was a kicker? Nothing phases that one. Not a dragon on the roof, nor a wizard in the woods." Bartolome dipped his great head toward Moti. "You must be Moti then, ma'am, am I right?" He extended one pewter-taloned paw to greet her. "That I am, good sir," she answered, glancing over at Gabrielle, "and I'd be quite careful not to believe exactly everything certain parties say." At this, the dragonettes dissolved in laughter, clapping their sides and bumping each other, at last collapsed in a giggling heap on the lawn. "And who might this scraggly miss or young un stampling around the grasses like a herd of wildebeest be?" He cocked his head again. His neck made a creaking noise. Michael popped immediately to his feet in such a rush he overbalanced and tripped over one wingtip. "I'm Michael, sir," he added the sir at the last second, dimly dredging a memory of proper etiquette from his mother's teachings. He extended his talons to shake with his new hero. "I want to be a warrior dragon and to fly with you when I grow up, sir. Oh, yes," he nodded his bright head enthusiastically. "Ya do ya? Well, we'll see about that. Who's this pretty gal next to you?" Thelma blushed with self-consciousness. Shyly she stepped forward and dipped a small curtsy to the old dragon. She was so overcome, she mumbled her greeting under her breath. "Spake up, young laddie. Paint here on my left side goes along with this." He held up the paw with a missing finger. "On this," he indicated his missing left eye. "Will you tell us a story of how the injuries happened? Tell us all about that battle and the enemies you vanquished." Michael was exuberant. "Now, Michael," said Gabrielle sternly, "it isn't polite to ask a soldier about his battle scars. Leastways, not the first time you meet him. Let this fellow relax some before you deluge him with your curiosity." So jalapeno tea it was, and the new guest reclined against a stack of comfortably placed hay bales on the lawn, scratching a curious pucky pig in the center of his back where it was most itchy, with one dangerous-looking talon. Pucky was so happy. What a wonderful new friend. Katydid the cat crept out from under Mirthwin's work shed, belly low to the ground, pupils widely dilated as she hesitated before extending her neck to its fullest length to sniff at Bartholem's wingtip. Bartholem rolled his good eye her way, and she froze until he commented, "Such a beauty you folks have got here on this kitty. My goodness, hop up here onto my lap, lassie." He tapped his right thigh, and much to everyone's surprise, the cat did jump right up onto his lap to lounge against his leathery neck, purring. There she ignored the lot of them to lick industriously at one outstretched leg, with toes of the paw spread wide in the summer sunshine. "Bet you're a good huntress, lass." "Well, this fellow has got the best sense," thought Katydid to herself, as she licked her rough tongue over her paw pads. She felt much appreciated by the newcomer, as it should be. As the afternoon walked the forest path toward evening, Ambergris arrived, accompanied by Grandpa Einar. Moti had previously decided to have a large outdoor meal spread across the backyard on wooden tables and cooked over an open fire. Bartholem and the wizard held each other at greeting in a fierce embrace for a moment. They had fought in battle together such a long time ago. Neither ever forgot the friendship that comes from having one who was at your back in battle. As night slowly dropped her skirts over the yard and the celebrants sprawled upon it, Bartholem and Ambergris lifted a flask of lightning juice to toast old friends and new and loved ones. Mirthwin and Einar joined in. Earlier, neighbor Cal and his wife Digi had wandered down the path on their evening stroll. They'd been beckoned to join the group. Mallow was dug from the marshes, the roots cleaned, cut into squares, and roasted on sticks over the open fire pit until they bubbled golden brown. Fireflies and fairies sparkled in the air around them, some even landing in Moti's beautiful, long auburn tresses. Wearing her lace and white gown and spangled sparklers adorning her hair, she truly looked as magical as she was. Mirthwin had bestowed upon her his secret nickname that nobody else knew. He called her Dances with Fireflies. As usual, Michael pestered to be allowed a sip of lightning juice. Finally, Ambergris said, "Of course, young master," as he passed the flask over to Michael's outstretched hand. Michael gulped down a big swallow before he had taken time to taste it. Instantly, he started flapping his wings and shouting, "Hot, hot!" His eyes watered, his nose drooled, and he coughed until he felt sure his feet would raise up and ride out his body on his tongue. The grown adult males laughed until the tears leaked out of their eyes. Even Gabby laughed, her spectacles fogged up. Sometime later, all the adults agreed that saying yes was a far better deterrent to Michael's persistence than saying no, which would have only made his pursuit all the more diligent. The next morning he complained of a headache. Mirthwin shook his head and smiled. Ah yes, growing up, what an adventure.